Hello everyone, Hezu here with my special guest, Corey Wilder!
I've come to take control yet again! Praise me!
So, the internet-famous Hazbin Hotel from all the way back in 2019 has resurfaced from its groundbreaking indie status and 4-year-long hiatus to become an official A24 Amazon corporate show. It's been a long time coming, so let's dive in, shall we? While the show has been confirmed to be in production for up to 4 seasons, this review will just be covering the content shown in Season 1, which consists of 8 20-minute episodes.
As a disclaimer, some of the problems we will be addressing regarding Season 1 could very well be solved by the release of later seasons. But, for the purpose of this review, we are only going to be looking at Season 1 as a standalone story to see how it fares, okay? So, don't jump on our asses about that.
If you don't know about this show, the premise of Hazbin Hotel concerns the efforts of Charlie Morningstar, the Princess of Hell, who begins a personal project to find a way to rehabilitate and redeem sinners so they can get into heaven and survive a continuous annual extermination from heaven's armies that routinely decimate the population to keep hell under control. Alert! We will be talking about spoilers, so here is your warning. 3, 2, 1. Okay, quick episode summaries. Here we go. Episode 1, brief history of Charlie's parents. Charlie's redemption idea gets rejected by the angels, and the angels push their yearly exterminations forward to every 6 months instead of yearly because one of their soldiers was beheaded. Meanwhile, the rest of the hotel staff spend the other half of the episode making a commercial for the hotel that we never get to see.
My turn! Episode 2. Charlie is panicking about the extermination day being bumped, so she seeks a new guest for the hotel. Along with that, we are introduced to Penchus and the V's, Val, Vox, and Velvet, who are doing their own stuff. Penchus infiltrates the hotel for the V's, but is thwarted by Angel. Charlie then sings a song about forgiveness, and Penchus is welcomed into the hotel with open arms. FYI, this is the really condensed version of this episode. There was a lot that happened.
We are trying so hard to keep this short and sweet. We are trying really hard, okay? Anyway, episode 3, Sir Penchus' egg boys are confiscated and given to Alistair to discard humanely. He ends up bringing them to an overlord meeting where they discuss the decapitated angel head. Through one of the eggs, Alistair finds out fellow overlord Camilla was the one who killed the angel to protect her daughters. Meanwhile, Charlie and the others are doing preschool friendship exercises before being thrown into an outright turf war when everything else doesn't work. This happens off screen, by the way. Everyone is now friends. You can tell because the show tells you that they are friends. They're homies. Total besties. We're on episode 3.
Episode 4! Angel is called in by Val to do work, even though he's been ignoring Val for days without consequence. That's a special tool for later. Charlie gives Val a piece of her mind, and Angel ensures that he's fine. Angel has a dance number and a song. He then goes out drinking, and Husk has to fetch him. Angel and Husk then have a bonding moment in song form, and they go back to the hotel with a newfound respect for each other.
Episode 5. Charlie seems to have forgotten her hotel idea was rejected and had no merit, and has spent the past 12 hours in a panic trying to figure out why it's not working. Even though she's now had 5 months to worry about this by now, she reluctantly calls her dad for help. Enter Lucifer. This short, goofy, awkward recluse shows up at the hotel, and Alistair gets pissed off and immediately hates him for some reason. Alistair and Lucifer spend the entire episode fighting over Charlie, trying to prove who the better dad is to her when the answer is neither of them, because they've never really interacted with her before now. Meanwhile, Mimsy is here, who dumps Alistair's backstory and puts the hotel in danger, and Alistair defends the hotel and tells her to leave. Lucifer ends up giving in and deciding to assist Charlie with the hotel.
Episode 6. Charlie and Vaggie go to heaven thanks to Daddy Love to meet Sarah, the head of the Angels. While this is going on, the rest of the gang go to a bar with Angel's best friend Cherry Bomb. Vaggie is revealed to be an angel by Adam, and then he threatens to reveal this to Charlie, the sweetest cinnamon roll and least judgmental person on the planet. After that, Charlie and Vaggie have their meeting with the Angels, and so they spy on Angel's group to see if there's any better development in Angel or any of the sinners at that point. And then that's when Angel stands up for his friends against Valentino. Seraphim is like, well, fuck that noise, brother. And Emily calls her out on her BS because they were like, yeah, the sinners are bad and they can't be redeemed. And then they got proof right there. And then freaking Seraphim's like, no, I don't like those. I don't like those sinners. And Emily's like, what are you talking about, mommy? Da 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 da. And then Charlie breaks out into song with her again. And then they start calling the angel hypocrites. And then during the song, Adam and Lute reveal Vaggie's dirty little secret. it. And then they get kicked out of heaven, and heaven still plans to attack hell. Oh no.
Episode 7. Alistair takes advantage of Charlie being upset and makes a deal with her. He tells her the angels can be killed, knows who did it the first time, and knows where he can find the help. Charlie tells her, supportive girlfriend Vaggie, to get the info and weapons from Carmilla, while Charlie and Alistair try to convince a bunch of cannibals to kill themselves for Charlie's cause they would never care about. Rosie, the cannibal overlord, gives Charlie a pep talk about her supportive girlfriend Vaggie, and despite Charlie doing most of the talking, or singing in this case, Alistair is the one who convinces the cannibals to come to the fight, promising a delectable angel feast if they come. Meanwhile, Charlie's supportive girlfriend Vaggie, a former angel who had her wings sliced off, discovers from Carmilla that, to her utmost shock and ignorance, that angels can be hurt. She regrows her wings, gets the weapons, and makes up with Charlie.
Episode 8. Everyone's ready for the big battle. It's like Helm's Deep out there. You know, the angels attack the hotel, Alistair gets his cheeks clapped and runs away, and with him gone, Adam is nuking people. So Pinchas gets a bright idea to save his new friends. He gets his airship, rams it into Adam, and spears him on the tip of it, turning the tide of battle, and then Pinchas is praised as the hero of... Oh, no, never mind. Pinchas gets boofed for comedy. Charlie is now forced to fight Adam while Vaggie beats the fuck out of Luke. Holy shit. Daddy Lucifer comes to save Charlie and then proceeds to beat the fuck out of Adam. A lot of people getting beat the fuck out of this episode. Adam swears revenge, but then Nifty stabs him in the back, killing him as Luke cries over his dead body. The angels run and the day is saved, thanks to the Hazbin gang. Alistair comes back at some point and then no one questions where he's been, but whatever. We then get the reveal that Adam was working with Lilith, supposedly. There's a lot of questions, I know, but yeah, I'll talk about it later. Whatever. Just go. Let's talk about the good. Haha. Hezu, take it away.
Yes, good things. Good things. Some of the animation was really good. The voice actors are theater people, so they did a fantastic job outside of the directing limitations. Charlie's, Alistair's, and Serpentius's are, in particular, they're pretty nice. Some of the songs are good. I like the song with Alistair and Vox the most.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, you feel me, Corey. Concepts are great. I like the hotel's first design, really good. Background artists worked really hard. Yeah, I think that's all I can think about. You want to help me out, Corey?
I also agree with these points. To go more in depth, I appreciate a lot of the VA performances, especially Erica as Charlie. She acts so overbearing and kind and suffocating, and it was perfect for a sheltered princess of hell. She also had good moments to flex off her acting chops, especially in episode 5 in the later half with Lucifer. Also, a few honorable mentions are Jeremy Jordan as Lucifer, of course, Christian Borle as Vox, and Alex Brightman as Pinchas. All really enveloped their characters, and for some, I didn't even recognize it was them. Specifically you, Alex. Specifically you. I didn't even know. You showed off with some good range, brother. And to add on to that, the animation was also gorgeous, especially during song numbers where they could really make the colors pop and play with different perspective shots to amplify the fantastical elements of being in hell. And I also agree that the concepts are great. But I do feel that the execution of them is the problem, which leads to the bad.
So, there's a lot of surface level things that naysayers like to focus on, like animation continuity errors, sound design errors, incredibly rushed pacing, made worse by it feeling like there's a song quota since a lot of tracks could be deleted without losing anything, frankly. But Hazbin's biggest flaws go beyond that superficial surface and commits the biggest sins in writing. In general, there's a distinct lack of stable foundation and continuity for the entire plot. The world building and how the realms of heaven and hell operate are either contrived in how they're explained or just not elaborated on at all, to the point the characters themselves are unsure how specific things function. For example, in the very first episode, Charlie is specifically told by Adam that redemption is not possible nor accepted. A few episodes later, she's freaking out, unable to understand why redemption isn't working. In fact, Even putting that aside, somehow no one knows what gets a soul into hell or heaven. Not even heaven themselves. Adam has to literally make up some rules on the spot when asked about it. The show also states that hell has no way of reaching heaven in the first place, which renders the entire point of the exorcisms moot. But even the personal and smaller story beats are lacking. Angel Dust, he's in an abusive work relationship with Valentino via a soul contract, but can easily avoid being a part of it by simply not answering messages on his phone, as Val himself says is the case in episode 2, by the way. It's later revealed he is only subject to Val's orders inside the studio itself, meaning that he actually has free reign to do what he wants outside of it. How about Vaggie? Being an angel? This was not the original plan for her character, and it shows. Vaggie, an angel who got her eyes stabbed out and her wings ripped off by angelic weapons, is shocked at being told by a hell weapons dealer that angels can be hurt and killed by angelic weapons. The show is only 8 episodes long, and yet they have such a glaringly obvious contradiction. Adding further to those contradictions, the show features scenes where Vaggie and Lute are able to injure each other without angelic weapons. Lute even gets her arm trapped under a large piece of rubble and tears her arm off with sheer force to escape. I mean, unstoppable force meets highly movable rock. It doesn't make sense. Basically, the show has a bad habit of establishing a threat or a problem to solve, but the problem ends up either contradicting itself by changing the circumstances or doesn't even make sense. Whether it's Angel's contract, the angelic weapons, or even the premise of the show itself, the story of Hazbin keeps throwing wrenches into itself and ends up coming across like a bunch of ideas that they thought would be cool to throw together without any thought as to how it all work. There's also way too many characters. There's a distinct lack of focus when it comes to our protagonists and their struggles. There's too many people to keep track of for any of them to get any useful time in the spotlight, to have an arc, to change, to develop through a narrative. Entire months are glossed over as stuff that happened off screen. We never see the journeys our characters take. The characters themselves, especially the main cast, have no real chemistry as a result because they barely interact with one another. And anytime the show tries to imply they do, it all happens off screen. The antagonists are framed as evil and powerful, but the writers deliberately undermine their threat and actual bad actions whenever they can, as though they're afraid that they can't make them too unlikable. One of the biggest issues that season 1 has is that it's already piqued the conflict of the entire show. The main cast has now literally defeated the biggest bad of the Hazbin world in heaven itself, utilizing the aid of people who never were interested in the hotel to start with, and yet they're still able to win. They throw the V's in the ending finale as though they're going to be the villains of season 2. I mean, are you serious? Heaven's defeat has now made them completely toothless in comparison to the Exorcists. These guys are just a bunch of clowns.
Which leads to me. I've been saying since episode 4 that season 1's pacing can be mostly fixed by not having this whole Angel War arc happen at all. So, strap on in and take a journey with me, kids, as I teach you guys a bit about pacing. So, in my humble opinion, season 1 should have been about Charlie trying to establish the happy hotel from the very beginning. That one sentence fixes so many of the problems that the show runs into. For most of season 1, we see Charlie talking about trying to get the hotel running, but we never really see any effort on her part to actually do it. I mean, hell, the show begins a week after Alistair has already worked his magic to get the hotel working in the first place, so it's just weird that we don't see her do anymore. The thing that she keeps doing is that she keeps trying to talk to Heaven and get their approval, but Adam flat out says that Heaven does not give a flying fuck about the denizens of hell in the first episode. And it just undermines everything that Charlie is trying to do for the rest of the season. And I don't know, it just takes up a lot of space. Now, I bet you're wondering, Corey, How are they supposed to fix that? Charlie's whole goal is to redeem a sinner. It's not her fault that heaven wants to kill them. I answer that question by saying that the concept of heaven not wanting to redeem sinners isn't what I have a problem with. It's the fact that they reveal this in the very first episode.
Agreed. Very much agreed.
This reveal should have been at the end of season 1. The first season should have been about Charlie going through the motions of trying to get someone redeemed and really make some big changes and have a breakthrough with them being good enough to make it. And then at the end of the season, she can be told that heaven is never going to allow her to do that. That would have not been only a more dramatic story that features the hotel itself, but it sets up a much better cliffhanger for a season ending than the one that we got. There's not too many questions that really entice me to come back and watch it again. What I'm saying is that the hotel would be at the center of the narrative, and then that makes heaven less obvious of an antagonistic force right away like the pilot implied, but also it raises the stakes moving on from season 1 to season 2, rather than the weird backwards motion that we have in the final show. The concepts and ideas are already there. All you need to do is pace them out and execute them properly, rather than pile up all your big things straight away. And well, what's so funny about all of this is that as a result of how the season actually turned out, we don't really have an escalation of stakes, like how I mentioned before. The only thing that can really escalate from there is that we know that Alistair is being contracted by someone, and we don't know anything really about Lilith. Like, we don't know why Lilith is in heaven and not helping her daughter, since there's no hint of Lilith even being important for the whole season, other than Charlie and Lucifer mentioning her like sparsely throughout the show, and that she disappeared, but that's really it. It hasn't really affected anything in the world. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm crazy.
Oh, definitely not just you, Corey. With Adam and Heaven out of the way, at least for now, the V's can only be a downgrade in both threat and relevance. The hotel obviously has access to angelic weapons now to easily protect themselves, which means they can easily overthrow other overlords that pale in comparison. We won't know if Lilith is a big bad until season 2. I mean, she might bring something to the table, but even if that's the case, why act like the V's are going to take that role in the finale? Why give screen time to these goons at all if they're going to be sidelined by her? Seems like a waste. Lilith was already painted out to be a questionable mom through the scenes with Lucifer. I mean, seems like she just divorces him and takes Charlie away and then disappears for 7 years, now revealed to be in heaven. I mean, without a doubt, there's more going on here, especially because the show's starting point shoved it in our faces that Alistair, too, has been missing for exactly 7 years, seems to be under a contract, and took an unnatural interest in Charlie's well-being and the project she's been working on. The association is obvious, but the context, not so much. Either way, the ending was too rushed and overcrowded for me to process what was being revealed, let alone feel excitement or mystery for anything.
Speaking of the V's, I forgot to mention that the villains for my version of season 1 would be them.
Agreed again!
Because they not only have personal relations to the main cast, but they have way more at stake in Charlie's hotel flopping compared to Heaven. Walk with me on this. Their whole operation is run off vanity and depravity, which Charlie's hotel wants to help people get away from. The more sinners that get redeemed, the more their business begins to fade away. It gives them a great reason to be more active in the plot and can include their petty squabbles with Alistair and Angel. It can also get Velvet more involved because right now she's a nothing burger hanging with her 2 gay best friends.
Man, Velvet really is a nothing burger, ain't she? I mean, why is she hanging out with these losers? Wasn't social media and the pop-up streaming services a threat to cable television? I mean, why is she working with Vox if they're competitors? I don't know. I mean, it seems like Vox should have more beef with her than Alistair. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, Vox is more than cable. He's all electronics and is the grade A capitalist that sells TVs and phones. To be honest, I think he would scrap cable for streaming platforms if it meant people bought more of his product.
Fair point, fair point. All right, roll up your sleeves. Time to tackle the ships. The creators definitely wanted to include shipping in their narrative, especially with how the sister show Hell of a Boss shifted its entire premise to be mostly about relationship drama. Hazbin is a show that's supposed to be about people becoming better. Relationships, either platonic or romantic, need to be handled with appropriate logic, attention, and actual good chemistry between the appropriate parties. And they aren't. From my personal perspective, being in the fandom for a long time now, Alistair and Charlie, along with Angel and Alistair, regardless of not being canon, seemed like the most popular ships from the pilot because they had the most chemistry. More chemistry than their now canon counterparts, but that's because their interactions were the most interesting in pre-release material. But as a result, the creators seem to have panicked over this. They have shown a very obvious bias to what they will allow or encourage. So, as a form of damage control for relationships they don't want to fuel, even with characters being on a friendly level, the creators deliberately inserted scenes which serve no real purpose than to just sink ships. If you ever wondered why Alistair makes it very clear that he sees Charlie as his daughter specifically, or why Angel and Alistair literally don't have a single direct line of dialogue to another for an entire season, this is why. It's really awkward. It's entirely empty in comparison to what the pilot gave people. It affects the story because other characters are now barred from interacting. Character interactions are flipped on a dime to better cater to the correct ship agenda, and that hurts the overall show. For example, in the pilot, Vaggie was like a fretful mother to Charlie, not really acting like her lover. A musical theater princess with some overprotective, over-controlling goth sinner girl? It didn't really work. I mean, hell, even in like super early concept, Vaggie and Angel were supposed to be boyfriend and girlfriend. But, to the official show's credit, Vaggie's interactions with Charlie are a bit more natural in this series. She actually makes a genuine effort to participate and support Charlie's antics, taking on the role of the hotel manager while Charlie works on the actual redemption exercises. But that being said, they still remain not really believable as a couple, but for an entirely different reason. Because Vaggie now lacks an identity. Instead of being her own person, Vaggie is now only Charlie's partner. That's all she is. Vaggie, having been saved by Charlie, has now dedicated her entire existence to Charlie and her dream, despite knowing, as an angel, how impossible that dream is. Having abandoned everything heaven-related, Vaggie is now nothing more than Charlie's accessory, having no goals or identity of her own. Honestly, though, out of all the ships, this is probably the one that works if you turn a blind eye, but it leaves a lot to be desired. Side tangent, sorry. But the show, once we get to heaven, nonchalantly, if not immediately, reveals Vaggie is an angel to the audience, only to re-reveal this to Charlie half an episode later with dramatic flair and horror stricken across Charlie's face. The audience saw this coming. There's no need for all this shock just to reveal it at the same time Charlie finds out. We're numb to it the second time. You should have revealed it to the audience and Charlie at the same time. I feel like Adam blackmailing Vaggie was a complete waste of time. Anyway, Corey, are there any ships you want to tackle?
I'm gonna be totally honest, man. I don't give a damn about any of the ships, and it's kind of because of what you said. The only one to me that had potential out of creators' biases, if done correctly, was Angel and Husk. But what they gave us with those two is forced as hell, and really is a prime example of the show introducing contrivances and gigantic personality shifts, all for the sake of insisting that this ship makes sense and is necessary to include. For starters, it doesn't help that Angel basically harasses Husk in every moment in the show, to the point that the show itself calls his behavior legit sexual harassment. Canon Angel will constantly push his flirts over the edge again and again to where Husk is left physically having to push Angel away and tell him to stop. This is already a massive step back from Angel in the pilot, where we see that if someone denies his advances, he will listen and stop, as shown with Alistair. Whatever he was like, I can suck your dick, and then Alistair's like, no, and he's like, all right, you're lost. He didn't pursue him, he just let him go. It's crazy, isn't it? And it's like, it sucks because this tied into his original characterization of being down on his luck, but still having a heart of gold buried beneath it. But Pilot Angel and Canon Angel are two completely different people, with the latter only being a part of this pairing if the plot demands that it happens, rather than it making sense to the characters or the overall stories. And that's to say nothing about how Husk's entire attitude to Angel goes from genuinely hating being around him over the course of what is implied to be months, to then being chummy and friendly with very romantically charged visuals over the course of a single episode. Like, what is this?
As an addition, I just want to chime in and say, how hilarious the song that sets this whole thing up is. Angel is all, someone owns your soul and you're addicted to stuff just like me? OMG, we have so much in common. While Husk's half of the song is, oh, you're in pain and you're suffering? Well, so is everyone else in hell. Shut up, whiny bitch. How can one song be so contradicting to its own lyrics and be so tone deaf at the same time? It's so weird.
The thing is that we knew for years beforehand that the creative team behind Hazbin were insanely biased towards the ships, even back in the days of the Instagrams. Why is Husk now suddenly caring to give advice and cheer up someone he formerly hated being around minutes earlier? And why is Angel opening up so much about his reality to someone he said he didn't want to talk to mere seconds before and has been a one-sided skeevy harasser to before that? Because they have to. Otherwise, the ship can't happen! Both Angel and Husk have now been designated as interests to each other, even at this early stage. So, the classic fan fiction-esque trope of pushing the relationship as a priority over anything else, including what connections to other characters and the overall story could do for their development, is in effect. It just restricts the interactions and possibilities for both of them going forward, and surely see the ramifications of this in later episodes where this actually does happen, so buckle up. What makes it all the more frustrating is that everything from the sudden shifts in personality, to Loser Baby, to the Alistair scene in episode 5 using the exact same visual motifs to punch viewers over the head with, is all done with the intent to say these two are supposed to be kindred. And yet, it completely fails to take into account the context of their situations, even on a surface level, shows how artificial the dynamic is. Alistair's ownership of his soul was his own fault. He gambled away the souls he owned as an overlord until he made a deal with Alistair and lost his soul in the process. And despite that, the consequences of this choice have been almost trivial. Alistair roped Husk into taking part in the hotel, but he's otherwise probably been the best possible overlord to serve imaginable. Husk is not only allowed to use casual nicknames to refer to Alistair, he is also allowed to backtalk, snap at, and mock him to a point. He's allowed to drink when he wants, he can come and go from the hotel when he wants. Alistair doesn't supervise or direct him in any way that we've seen, to where Husk just doesn't seem to care all that much. The only time Alistair has ever really exercised his authority over Husk in a manner even remotely similar to Angel was when Husk pushed the subject of Alistair's own chains too hard. And Angel's situation is a whole entire universe of a difference, to where he's treated more like a genuine slave. He's routinely put through the ringer in the severity of what he has to do for the films and given little reprieve. He's regularly beaten for even the most minor of infractions against the rules. He's assaulted and forced to do things on pain of actually being killed, and it's a situation he's been stuck in for so long that he'll do anything to numb the pain. In contrast to Alistair, Valentino is constantly keeping tabs on what Angel is doing, trying to control his every movement and action, threatening Angel all the time with what he'll do to him if he doesn't obey, and Angel didn't ask for this. He didn't simply lose a game of chance. He was deceived by Valentino's charms into signing the contract because he had no power as a normal sinner. Husk being allowed to have this much freedom and only be made to answer Alistair's call when asked makes him the clear winner for losing his soul, whereas Angel is trapped in something he didn't want and has no way to break free from. For this show, and also the fan base, to genuinely try and imply that both of these situations are in any way comparable and that Alistair, a character who is honestly sometimes a pretty good boss with how he treats his subordinates, is equal to someone like Valentino is contradictory at best and outright insulting at worst. There's literally no reason to include these massive character personality shifts and specific chain imagery and kindred spirit themes unless it was to reinforce this destined shipping tangent with Angel and Husk, and it's just, God, it just annoys me so much.
Speaking of sexual harassment, remember how we spent an entire episode going over how horrifying Angel's all-night assault was? Well, the very next episode after that, assault is now being used as a joke to set up Serpentius with Cherry at the bar. Also tone deaf. What the fuck, guys? Serpentius and Cherry having an attraction to one another is probably the most what's the word? Forced? Shoved in? It's the most forced thing the show has done, and that's saying something. The pilot versions of these characters were simply turf war enemies. Nothing more, nothing less. Them being put together was classic fandom shipping that should have stayed in the fandom. I mean, innocent fun and fan culture, but in the show there was nothing there before and there's nothing there now. But now with Serpentius' character altered to be much less villainous and more pathetic, he out of the blue reveals he had a crush on Cherry this whole time. He tries and fails to flirt with her throughout the show, while she's clearly disinterested and annoyed with him, but finally shows interest only after Angel tells her he has 2 dicks. She only cares about his body. Serpentius later kisses her without consent before valiantly but anticlimactically dying in the final battle, and that's it. That ship looks cute, let's put it in. Yeah, no, don't do that.
Like I said, the ship and fuel for it will be forced in if the creators like it. Doesn't matter if there's any build-up or if it even makes sense.
I mean, even Adam and Lute, they're side characters. They shouldn't even be worth mentioning. But the ending where Adam dies and Lute is crying over his body as though she loves him is concerning. Adam is a sleaze, a sexist, a childish creep who names his subordinates after sex parts. There's nothing redeeming about this guy as a villain. He acts like a 13-year-old boy who calls you slurs on Xbox. You can't show us a series of scenes of Adam bad-mouthing and shouting at Lute and then act like they're in a tragic relationship in the closing moments. I feel nothing but pity for her. Just seems like she's a groomed subordinate who lacks self-confidence and has dependency issues. This insistence on something between them left a bad taste in my mouth.
Listen, if we saw a soft side to how Adam treats Lute, then this one would be more excusable. But you're right. Through the show, Adam treats Lute like a subordinate and even digs and makes fun of her from time to time. If they wanted to insert this whole thing of him caring about Lute, they needed to actually show that he cares about her.
Yeah. Ugh. I'm sick of talking about ships. Let's move on. As if to jump off the previous point to explain why so many of these god-awful pairings are so lifeless and lacking depth, I'm sorry to inform you, if you haven't figured it out already, but the pilot characters and the canon characters are completely different people. Pilot Charlie and Canon Charlie are still very much alike, positive, childish, ignorant, reckless, musical theater kids. But in the pilot, Charlie is far more energetic and self-aware about how botched her entire plan is. She admits she doesn't know what she's doing and is simply trying her best, coupled with the fact that it's implied her father is disappointed in her for the path she's taken. She's considered a failure and feels that way too. It's implied that Lilith is the only one she feels like she can talk to, the only one who may still support her. But even then, with the lack of a real answer, Charlie is far more alone and far more insecure, but also smart enough to realize it and also uses her status when needed. Canon Charlie is an idiot. She's even more childish than before, thinking being firm in asking for things is too mean. She's socially inept around other demons. She's clumsy, absolute klutz. She's too naive to understand why her ideas are struggling. She still has her musical implications and is still positive to a fault, but now she has tons of moments where she continues to make a fool of herself, and yet never has the level of introspection that she displayed in the pilot. Lucifer was implied to be a proud, imposing king of hell, a literal ruler of pride who was only ever seen in murky shadows among other overlords during the pilot's opening moments, a powerhouse that Charlie seems to want the approval of but was never able to get. His attitude towards his daughter was much more condescending and scolding, to the point where Charlie says that his criticisms of her may have even been right. But in the real show, Lucifer is instead a socially reclusive shut-in with little to no participation in Hell's overall functioning in the aftermath of splitting with Lilith for reasons we don't know yet. Charlie says he only ever calls her when he needs something from her, while also paradoxically longing to properly bond with her, since it's implied that Charlie never calls him herself. I mean, this seems like a he said, she said situation. I'm really confused. He's endearing, but this time Charlie is the one disappointed in her father. She hates him and blames him for his uncaring disposition when it comes to Hell's denizens. He's the one who said it was okay for heaven to come in and kill everyone in the first place. For some reason, Lucifer also has this gimmick with rubber ducks, kind of like Blitzo and his obsession with toy ponies. Is this supposed to be like quirky or something? I don't really get it. Despite some of Lucifer's strengths, though, I don't see his purpose in the story. Yeah, like, what does he add to the story as part of the cast? He's actively hostile towards Alistair for whatever reason and lacks chemistry with the rest of the hotel staff, which means he's only there for Charlie. Yeah, Lucifer's just there. It's implied he'll be part of the main cast in season 2, but his appearances in season 1 are simply unimportant. Vaggie I already explained a lot about in the ship section. I mean, in the pilot, she's essentially Charlie's stand-in mother and manager with major anger issues. It's implied she doesn't like or trust men, maybe even struggles with self-image issues. She also knows about Alistair and his long history of conquering Hell's overlords, implying she's been there for a long time. In the final show, any and all significant information about Vaggie as herself or with Charlie that could have been explored has been erased in favor of making her an angel who has barely been in Hell for a few years after being saved by Charlie, who she has now dedicated her entire life to revolve around. Vaggie isn't really given a chance to be her own character. She's just a girl who acts like a soldier now. Where she had chastised Angel for getting involved in a turf war in the pilot, she's now actively throwing all the hotel members into one and actively encouraging their participation. Some things about Vaggie improved, such as her being a little more level-headed, whereas other parts of her were stripped away, leaving her much more bland than she was before. Pilot Alistair, Alistair, what have they done to you? Pilot Alistair was a creepy, conniving, manipulating overlord with immense power and charm. He sang, he danced, he dressed up, he liked food, he went about his day like an average fella. But behind the scenes, he was horrifying and craved carnage. He gives the excuse that he's helping Charlie because he's bored, but his shady demeanor implies he has ulterior motives. He fixes the hotel and even hires more staff, but otherwise makes it very clear he's mostly there for entertainment. He doesn't believe in Charlie's dream, but he does find it to be a breath of fresh air for something so wild to appear in Hell. Canon Alistair pretends to be all of the above, but his poker face is non-existent. He's constantly distressed and insecure. When the other overlords comment on his absence, he gets anxious and annoyed when they don't seem to care. When Husk confronts him about something, he grabs him by the neck and threatens him. He's immediately pissed off and threatened by Lucifer's presence, and is far more arrogant and even swears like the rest of the cast. His pilot counterpart didn't swear once.
As a side note, Alistair swearing as much as he does is just proof of a broader idea that the writing team doesn't understand why all those written by Vivziepop memes went viral. The fact the character swears isn't the problem. Swearing by itself isn't even the problem. It's the overuse. It's the context. And making Alistair use these words so frequently completely spoils the point of that final payoff and his character in general. Alistair, being such an old-timey sort, never used that language when we first saw him. He never used any sort of modern terminology because he hated it as well. And while he was shown to genuinely lose his temper and curse when it concerned seeing Vox, he only did so to himself. He never used any form of bad language or phrasing when speaking directly to other people, not even against characters like the Butcher in his origin comic. So him dropping terms of, "Pissy, that's the tea," or calling people ordinary old bitches, and saying, "fuck you," it's just not him. If they'd made it so Alistair never cursed a single time except for that time his mic was cut, the impact of him actually being worried enough to say such a word would have had about 10 times the impact. Using swearing is fine if you use it selectively. Overuse completely removes the power of said words because then it becomes regular speech. It's why so much modern dialogue is always stereotyped as having pointless swearing, because it comes across as a very immature way to appear grown up or serious because you're using the bad words. Oh. And it's funny because the original pilot understood this to the point that there really isn't that much cursing in it. But sadly, the current writing team's main problem is that they can't really show any restraint. Not even on characters that it doesn't fit whatsoever, like Alistair. Making Alistair swear just adds nothing to the scenes that he's in. It also just detracts from his uniqueness as a character by making him like everyone else around him. It just gets rid of his uniqueness. It sucks.
This show makes it very obvious that Alistair has been missing the same time as Lilith has. That Alistair is an overlord, whose soul is clearly owned by another overlord. This Alistair is afraid of death. His time at the hotel is just a farce, perhaps something he's even forced into. That thing he's been after this whole time was in fact a deal with Charlie, potentially as a bargaining chip against Lilith, who, let's be honest, seems like the most likely candidate to be the owner of his soul at this point. Look, guys, it's totally fine that Alistair is secretly owned by someone else. I'd even encourage that sort of depth to his character. But he's been knocked off his high horse and kicked down, stuck in the mud. He brought a knife to a gunfight with Adam. No angelic weapon in sight. You can chalk that up to his arrogance again, but I just think he's stupid. He's so pathetic now. It also doesn't help that for some very strange reason, he's not allowed to interact with any of our other characters. The only two people he really talks to are Charlie and Vaggie. He and Angel don't have a single line of direct dialogue with each other, and his interactions with Husk and Nifty are just brief and superficial. Alistair doesn't belong with these people. He barely talks with them. Even if most of the character development happens off-screen anyway, Alistair isn't even with them off-screen either, so there's not even an excuse for him. Angel Dust, he's been frequently criticized as, he's sex joke, the character. But this aspect of him was far less prominent in the pilot. When Alistair turns him down, he playfully accepts the refusal. Though he stopped himself from comforting Charlie, he obviously feels bad when she gets upset because of his actions. He teases Vaggie and Alistair, but never to a very extreme extent outside of general brattiness. Angel was a very sexually charged character, but one who clearly could be more than that, especially when we got glimpses of those depths in his prequel comic and the Addict music video. Unfortunately, the canon show doubles down on all the unflattering parts of Angel's personality in canon, and they double down hard. Not only is he now the walking sex joke he used to be criticized as, but Angel has now become a legitimate sexual harasser. Almost every line of dialogue he has is some kind of double entendre or direct reference to sex. And this isn't just to his designated love interest, but also to other demons. like the ones Alistair summons to fix the damage to the hotel. In the Addict music video, Angel Dust implies he actually does love what he does. It's just Valentino that makes him hate his job. It's a nuanced idea portrayed in a single shot, so quick and brilliantly paired with those lyrics, and yet the canon fumbles its way into a contradiction through its poor portrayal. The show can't seem to make up its mind about how to treat Angel's work in the sex industry, despite making almost everything he says about it. One moment he's proud of his work and even gets defensive when Husk critiques the script, but he later criticizes a script himself and is not proud of his work at all. Husk literally calls him a whiny bitch for admitting that he hopes he'll break to escape from his terrible reality. Angel's character is equally as confused in how he behaves. He gets all upset when Serpentius does better at the hotel activities than he does, further emphasizing that Angel came here of his own free will, but he never puts forth any effort to match that standard, and more to the point, there's no reason for him to care. Angel was supposed to be the hotel's first client. He was arguably the most tricky and the most complex to fix. But he's been replaced by Serpentius. Serpentius is now the golden child. He's the poster child. He's the one who gets redeemed. He's the easy one. Pilot Husk was a jaded alcoholic gambler and made no attempts to hide it. He was mouthy, he was grumpy. His namesake was to allude to his emotional emptiness that he tries to fill with alcohol. He's a potential thorn in Charlie's plans because he doesn't really believe in all that nonsense either. In canon, Husk loses every part of his original characterization. His anger is subdued. He's much more emotional in general. He's even labeled as a calm, wise therapist of the group who believes in boundaries and abstinence. This is not just a revision of Husk's basic traits. They're just not the same character anymore. Not even in appearance or voice. What did they do to him? What did they do to my boy? This isn't Husk. Pilot Nifty was pretty basic, given how limiting her screen time was, but we got the impression of a hyperactive clean freak that was still capable of holding a conversation. A lot of her dialogue happens in quick succession to showcase her energy, her view of everyone, her priorities, but it reveals a fair bit about her character despite that brisk pace. In canon, Nifty has quite simply been infantilized. A decision made in very poor taste considering she's Japanese. The others in the group constantly baby her. They hold her, they comfort her, they chastise her like a child. She's far more random, saying strange yandere trope things with bad boys and killing insect families, but it's just nonsensical fodder. With her small stature and the fact that children exist in hell, it's very easy to assume Nifty is in fact a child, especially in the way she's been written. When I saw her in a dominatrix outfit at a sex shop later in the show, my soul left my body. And aside from that, she's just incredibly flat and holds little purpose other than, like, LOL, random. When Vaggie and Charlie make the very nonsensical and stupid decision to let Adam and Loot live, sparing Adam was actually just a forced setup for the punchline for Nifty to be the one to defeat the big bad once and for all. Was the scene shocking? Yes. Was it rewarding? No. Serpentius was just an arrogant side character in the pilot. An old-fashioned, silly, charming, evil villain trope to give more depth to Hell's social function in terms of overlords and how territory was controlled. His fight with Cherry helped coerce Angel out into the open to help his friend and jeopardize the hotel in the process, setting up a conflict done right. And he makes no reservations about his attempts to be evil. He belittles his egg boys, he throws them around like genuine minions, despite being clumsy at doing so. But in canon, Pentius is now a pathetic, wholesome sweetheart, part of our overcrowded main cast now. It's when he's essentially battling Nifty as comic relief and Angel Dust as poster child for the hotel that I feel like our character arcs are now competing against each other. And when our cast is overcrowded enough as it is, I don't think the decision to ham-fist him into the plot was the best idea in the grand scheme of things.
But if we're really talking about character assassination, Cherry Bomb is probably the most egregious alteration of them all. Before the show, Cherry was one of Angel's only rocks in his messed up existence. Sure, a bad influence, but she was also one of his only true friends. She was shown helping him through terrible moments that she knew she couldn't stop because of the contract. but was still by his side because she knew what he was going through. She caused troubles as bits of revenge on his behalf, knowing herself what it was like to be betrayed by someone she thought she loved. And the pair of them looked out for each other, embracing what they were way better than Loser Baby ever could dare to imply. But in the final show, she's not supportive. Not only does she complain to Angel to stop with the vow talk, but her solution is to insist he takes a nondescript drug so that he just forgets it, you know? And she gets annoyed when he hesitates because Husk told him not to, berates him when he tries to look out for Nifty. She doesn't even try to step in when he confronts Val or be in his corner, and then just leaves when it's over. Her own personal story is never mentioned whatsoever, so all of her complexity and sympathy for Angel coming from a personal space is gone. She's reduced to simply being the bad voice of temptation against Husk being the pure one Angel should pursue. Pilot, or even Cherry in the Attic music video, never judged Angel for his choices, even when it was things that she didn't want to do herself. But she was obviously there for him in a genuine emotional capacity no matter what. She sympathized with him through her own history and relished in her love of mayhem and destruction in the same vein as Angel's vices because they were kindred spirits. And then Show Cherry only wants Angel to take drugs with her, gets pissy that he doesn't want to anymore, only starts to love Serpentius after she finds out he has 2 dicks, and the story about her own abusive history with her mysterious former partner is just gone. She's just become a one-dimensional mean girl character that gets in the way of the boys getting together. Again. Wow, that sounds awfully familiar, don't you guys think? Ha 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 ha.
That allows me to slide into the next topic, Hazbin's lack of nuance. With a story that's supposed to be tackling the very complex nature of what redemption as a concept means, how it's achievable, and what it can mean to different people, Hazbin should be treating this subject with a level of care. The series has a chance to explore the nature of what being good entails, what it means to better oneself, and whose standards of good need to be met. Is it based on what is best for them, or simply what heaven decrees? Do they resist redemption because they enjoy being bad, or because they don't think they're able to achieve it? This level of complexity is what drew people into the show in the first place. Take, for example, Charlie. Something Charlie's character shares in both the pilot and the final show is her unrivaled ignorance towards what redemption actually means. Her original thesis on the matter consists of unicorn kisses, dolphin high fives, and singing songs. In the final show, she thinks it's trust falls, play performances, and teamwork. She thinks all that is enough to get you into heaven. It's not only patronizing, but ironically dehumanizing how she views sinners as unruly children to be scolded instead of actual people with deep-rooted issues that can't be fixed with a hug and a song. Even Vaggie in the pilot tells Charlie she doesn't think it's that simple. As mentioned before, no one in the Hazbin universe knows how to weigh a soul and whether it goes to heaven or hell. Even when Hell's rings are literally named after the 7 deadly sins, the official Twitter account even acknowledges angel dust as a representative of lust. The best answers we get come from characters like Adam, whose criteria of be selfless, don't steal, and stick it to the man is not only pathetic if not straight up wrong, but made up on the fly for the sake of a joke. The fact that Charlie picks angel dust as the hotel representative instead of Serpentius is also a ham-fisted plot idea. If they had chosen Serpentius, an unusually pure-hearted character for someone condemned to hell, Heaven's entire mantra would fall apart and genuinely paint them to look bad because, unlike angel dust, Serpentius is a fundamentally better person who continues to improve, frankly wasn't even evil in the first place, but because they chose Angel, they struggled to make a solid case with Heaven. On top of the fact that Adam, the first human in Heaven, who is way worse in behavior, twice as sexual, gluttonous, prideful, rude, filled with bloodlust, he's worse than Angel Dust, worse than Alistair, worse than Vox even. He's never been kicked out of Heaven, and yet no one points out that elephant in the room. It's such a glaring, obvious problem that never gets mentioned, and I don't know why. Adam's existence in Heaven and Heaven's executions in the name of protecting themselves, despite the fact that Hell actually has no way of attacking or reaching Heaven, those are the
only two things that make heaven actually look bad, but these points are never brought up in trial.
The closest thing Angel does to demonstrate his improvement is an out-of-character fretful mothering of Nifty, a character he's barely interacted with on screen before, protecting her from his abuser. In fact, Hazbin seems to treat the idea of redemption as simply being selfless for the sake of someone else. Angel protects Nifty, Serpentius protects Charlie and the others, Carmilla protects her daughters. I mean, every potential path has been about saving someone instead of internal reflection on how one can improve their own behavior and choices. According to the show's own simplistic logic, you could be the most terrible person in the world, but saving someone once could be enough to get you redeemed. I mean, this is even proven at the end of the season when Serpentius dies. I mean, yes, Pentius is the one who makes the most sense out of everyone to be redeemed because, frankly, he actually wasn't evil in the first place. But the way he's redeemed seems to enforce this weird loophole that simply making a sacrifice for the sake of someone else is enough to get into heaven. What's even more confusing, logic-wise, Serpentius respawning in heaven creates a possible plot hole here. See, the show establishes that demons and angels can't genuinely die through normal means. The demons are simply out of commission for a while until they pull themselves back together. However, one of the driving factors of the whole battle with heaven is the show telling and showing us that demons and angels can permanently die at the hand of an angelic weapon. While Adam's holy light could be argued to be an outlier to this rule, it is still a form of angelic power that is designed to kill. If Serpentius is struck by it to the point he's literally vaporized, he should just outright be dead. Not redeemed, not transported, just dead. The angelic light should have still killed him, since angelic weapons can also hurt other angels. I mean, the show is really inconsistent on the matter of angel invulnerability. I mean, what with Lute getting hurt by a boulder of all things. I mean, I don't think this problem is out of the question when it comes to Hazbin's problematic show logic. There's also nothing stopping heaven from kicking Serpentius out and just sending him back down to hell again whenever they want. I really don't think Serpentius is going to stay there for long. Instead of improving characters by getting to the bottom of their addictions and personal issues, getting actual therapy for their traumas, by having them practice abstinence and self-control, and having a true discussion of heaven's hypocrisy and bigoted rules to begin with, the show instead goes out of its way to paint these things in a very simple A versus B style. It's a very simplistic conflict. I mean, I can't fault the writers for wanting to avoid heavy topics like homophobia or bigotry found within religious concepts like heaven and hell. But even as a baseline, the argument of nature versus nurture is something that Hazbin could have explored with ease if it wanted to. But they chose not to. Instead, Hazbin tells us, you just have to be a good person, instead of sitting down and figuring out what truly makes someone good or bad and why they've ever done these bad things in the first place. It's all surface level stuff that the story isn't interested in exploring further than that. Charlie treats the sinners like children and will continue to do so because the show doesn't give her a reason not to. This is one of the main reasons Hazbin feels like it's more akin to a children's show and not something for adults. Because outside of sex jokes and crass swearing, there's nothing there. There's no true critical commentary on the ideas of heaven or hell, the nature of good and evil, and what it means to be a human, or anything the premise implies should be there. It's just a fancy decoration of a story that's more concerned with personal melodrama that it's just a simplistic fairy tale. But yeah, anyway, final thoughts? I'm disappointed. Hazbin Hotel, to me, was an indie revolutionary show built by amateurs that had an insane amount of potential, a huge amount of room for growth and exploring nuanced topics in ways that most other properties didn't. It was a show that accumulated a cult-like following for good reason, with memorable character performances, complex animation, all from an independent team that had so much in the realm of possibility to show as to what it could do in the animation space. it ultimately became a show that never seemed to improve beyond what it could have been and only seemed to get worse. With it moving on to a larger platform and shunning its indie roots, Hazbin devolved from the darling of amateur animation into a corporatized and purposefully edgy IP no better than the other countless streams of adult entertainment. Rife with internal company drama that burned bridges with a ton of people. It became fueled on whatever its creator wanted to turn it into afterwards to suit her tastes. It rejected what it was based on its concepts of redemption and character growth and instead prioritized flashy visuals and music and melodrama just for fandom pandering, just for musical pandering, without really going beyond that. This story feels like it needed a bit more serious of a foundation, but there is no foundation. It's empty. I was a huge fan of the pilot, including Hell of a Boss. They weren't perfect by any means before, but there was still a charm to them. There was some kind of hook for both of these. And now there's nothing. Long story short, my review of Hazbin is it's a bad show and it's a disappointment.
Yeah, here's my final thoughts. It sucks for me personally to watch this show, and I even told friends that, and friends even saw me, that I was tearing up at the end of the finale. And it wasn't a happy tear up. It was a tear up of just disbelief, because I was really attached to this show. This is one of the shows that got me into doing voiceover because of how unique its premise was, because of how it was just a bunch of indie actors and a bunch of indie artists and a bunch of indie everythings just coming together to make a story, and it just fell apart. It fell apart a lot. Maybe season 2 will come out and everything will get fixed, but I don't know. I can't do the thing that most people do, where if they go through a terrible season 1, that they're able to watch a season 2 that's better and then go like, oh, everything is fixed, everything's perfect. I can't do that. I'm just not able to. It just doesn't make sense to me. If you enjoy the show, enjoy the show. But as someone that's been following this show for a really, really long time and has been a fan of it, and it's been an inspiration on all the stuff that I do with voiceover and just meeting people and all the friends I've met through it, it's just disappointing. It's disappointing that this is how it turned out, with a lot of character assassinations, a lot of writing problems, a lot of pacing issues, just a lot of everything. I had so much energy at the beginning of this video, but going through and just talking about everything and just reading about it, it's killed me. It's killed me. That's really all my thoughts. Wrap it up, Hezu, and then give me your channel.
Well, thanks for joining me, folks. I know that this has been a long time coming, and I mean, by the time this is out, season 2 will probably have been out now anyway, but
this review genuinely exhausted us. We got kind of depressed making it. We had a little bit of production hell in the background. We just couldn't really, I mean, we must have re-edited this script maybe 3 or 4 times. We had to re-record 2 or 3 times. It's been it's been difficult. I'm sure everyone and their mother has already talked about Hazbin Hotel and everything wrong with it, but I'm always late to the party, but I still want to throw my 2 cents in since I sat through watching it. I may as well speak up about it.
People have always come to me for my Hell of a Boss critiques, and some people are still waiting for those. I mean, I said that I'd finish reviewing Hell of a Boss season 2, and I still intend to do that, but I'm seeing no improvement. It was very shockingly bad, which is why I kept making videos, because it just kept evolving. But now it's just the steady decline has kind of reached rock bottom for me. I mean, Hazbin Hotel, I'm probably gonna watch season 2, but I mean, I've definitely given up on. There's no coming back from what they've done to that show. But yeah, anyway, thanks to my patrons. Thank you for supporting me. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you again, Corey Wilder. Go check him out. His links are in the description. He's talented. You should hire him. Anyway, bye guys. Thank you.